currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's live Sunday edition. It is March 24th, 2013. It has been 2 weeks, so you know what that means. Episode number 7 of Cutting Through the BS with Johnny English. Johnny, welcome back.
Already been 7, huh?
Right? We just
7 episodes.
Right through them.
Yeah, I guess. Thanks for having me back, Popeye.
You and your, come on, do the campy radio voice for me.
Well, thanks for having me on, Popeye. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, man, I love it.
Yeah.
I know. I wanted to start today, because there's a bunch of topics, but I wanted to start today with a little bit of humor. I sent you a link a few minutes ago to a photo of a very, I guess you could say, inept SWAT officer.
Yeah, that's being nice, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I talked about this the other day.
These are professionals, sir.
Yep, I talked about this the other day a little bit, but I need to bring this back up because I found that so many people have no idea that this even happened. During a armed standoff in New York State, and this is, I guess, about 2 weeks ago now, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, there was a picture taken from inside of a business of the cops sitting behind what looks like a Humvee. The back half of it looks like it looks like the ass end of a Humvee, but I guess they're all the SWAT cops. There's one that's crouched down on the ground in like full on camo. And then there's two standing that are dressed. One of them's got a vest and jeans on, and a black SWAT style top, and the other one's got the khaki pants and a black SWAT style top. And one of them has a shotgun, and the other one that's standing has an AR-15. And he's got the extended round magazines that are highly dangerous to people hanging out the bottom of it. He's got a front foregrip, a flashlight on it. It looks like it's a Colt model because you could just tell. And he's got a universal rail mount system on the, and it's a quad rail. So it's, two on the sides, one on the top, one on the bottom. And for people who don't understand what a quad rail is, it's a Picatinny rail system was a system that was invented by the U.S. Army at the Picatinny Arsenal in Rockaway, New Jersey, years and years and years ago, hence the term Picatinny rail. And it's a universal mounting system. You could put bipods, foregrips, flashlights, scopes, sights, anything that you can mount to the front of your rifle or would want to mount to the front of your rifle. You can mount to this rail system, and these manufacturers all make these universal mounts that will fit onto the Picatinny rail system. And the same type of rail system is usually used to mount scopes and sights now. It's much easier because you can pop it right off, you can interchange, you can move them back and forth. Well, this guy is a SWAT officer, and he has, which is about a $500-600 sight. It's an EOTech holographic sight. It's used. You can use them, I guess, for like medium distance if you know how to shoot with it, but it's more for close quarters combat. And it allows you. It's like the best of both worlds. It's like having your iron sights on crack. You have this awesome orange little reticle that it's very easy to see. You can shoot with one eye or two eyes, which in close quarters combat situations, having both eyes open shooting is much better. I could go into that for 15 or 20 minutes. But the point is, the sight is made to make your life much easier if you're, in a shooter and you're in that active shooting situation. Well, SWAT officer over here, apparently, he must have never fired the weapon before. At least not with that sight on it. Because there's no way that he zeroed the sight in with it mounted the way it is, because it's backwards. He took a $500 EOTech sight, mounted it on backwards, and you should see this, the picture. You saw it, Johnny. He's sitting there behind the Humvee, and he's looking all like, yeah, we're going to get this guy, huh? Yeah, I'm looking around. I'm going to shoot him. Hey, Toolbox, did you even take your rifle to the range to zero it in when you put your sight on it? You couldn't have. He absolutely could not have done it, or else he would have realized the sight was backwards, because he can't shoot with that thing. He just made his rifle useless.
He was all giddy. He got it in the mail. The FedEx or one of the other companies dropped it off, and he's all excited, and he's nervous, and he just couldn't wait to get it put on his rifle. And he just put it on backwards. No big deal. Just put it on backwards. This professional that should have assault weapons. That obviously we need these people to carry around assault weapons. He got a little excited. No big deal.
Douche.
No big deal.
You get the douchebag award for the day because you can't even tell that your holographic sight is on backwards.
Ooh, are we handing those out today? Douchebag awards?
We could give them out all day.
I've got one too, so whenever we get around to it.
I have a list. Oh, the other douchebag award goes to, here in at least the first segment, goes to YouTube for changing up their frigging layout again. Thank you.
It sucks. It really does. Why do these people, that's something I don't understand, okay? The one part I do understand, these companies and these big websites, they get massive amounts of traffic. That's a given. We know that already. When something's working right and you're getting all this traffic and nobody's really complaining too much, obviously we're not privy to the emails and the hate mail and the things that they probably get. But when you change something so drastic that it literally throws your normal everyday users into a tizzy, I don't like that. I mean, look at all the sites, all the sites that have done that. Let's look at an operating system that has obviously done that, and of course I'm talking about Windows 8. Microsoft, in their genius, have basically turned Windows operating system into their phone OS. What was wrong with Windows 7 the way it went? What was wrong with the way it operated with the start menu and everything was so, it was pretty simplistic. And, there's a few little tricks that you can learn. But as far as just as an example, I'm trying to do my show a couple of weeks ago or a week or so ago, and I've got Frank Castle Skyped in, and then I'm trying to take callers, and I can't. You know why? Because the Skype app. It's an app. It's not the actual program. It's the app that comes in Windows 8. So I couldn't figure out how to get, bring in another call because it's not there. The feature's not there. So I had to delete that and actually download the desktop version. People, leave this stuff alone. I mean, really, just leave it alone.
But that's par for the course with Windows. Like every other version blows. Like when like people liked Vista or people liked XP, but then Vista sucked. You know what I mean?
Well, Vista was awful.
And now people liked Windows 7, but then Windows 8 blows. So like the next thing, Windows 9 or whatever the hell they name it will be a good operating system, and then Windows 10 or Windows crap or whatever they call it, Well,
no, Windows 9 will look exactly like Windows 7, but it'll have a couple new features because that's what all Windows 7 is. Windows 7 is XP on steroids. That's all it is. Windows 7 is just a little updated version of XP.
They do this stuff for marketing reasons, too.
Yeah.
We got a break sneaking up on us already. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 3 minutes. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And Johnny, I got to tell you, man, when it comes to Windows and this pattern they have over the years, and that's what I'm going to call it because it's a pattern. They release a good product, and then they release a shit product, and then they release a good product, and then release a crap product, and then they release it. You know what I'm saying? So with Windows, it's the same way. It's this version's good, this version's bad, this version's good. It's almost like they release the bad version to drive you to buy the one that they already have planned in the future.
That's actually a brilliant marketing strategy if you really think about it. Because odds are they don't put a lot of effort into the bad one. So there's not too much overhead involved, and it all ships with all the new computers anyway. Because you've been able to get Windows 8 computers since when? Since late last year.
Yep.
So the laptop I just bought has it on it, unfortunately. And are they going to offer me a free upgrade? Of course not. They're gonna here for $100. We'll send you Windows Blue. I guess that's the new operating system that's coming out. Windows Blue. Oh, God.
That's a really bad choice of name.
Because that reminds me of the blue screen of death.
Or just people go, in the future when Windows becomes obsolete because maybe somebody will invent something that's better that isn't owned by the scumbag corporations that
there
run
already
everything.
Is something better. I mean,
somebody will go, hey, remember Windows? It blew.
Ubuntu.
Yeah, Ubuntu or
that is better, and I've heard from a lot
Linux.
of developers and Linux, and I mean there's better ones out there. It's just not widely. Those operating systems are used a lot for programming Android and things like that. Because I've seen some of the developers I've talked to, the Android developers that I've gotten involved with since doing these videos, the ROM videos, they that's what they use. They use Ubuntu and they use Linux. So it's just not widely marketed as a consumer-friendly type operating system.
Horrible garbage, dude. And that is a marketing ploy. And the reason I say that is because this is something that a conversation I had a couple weeks ago where I was talking with somebody about this, and the subject of cell phones came up. And it's already come out from people on the inside of the industry, even years ago, that there are certain cell phones that were marketed. They were made completely garbage on purpose. T-Mobile did this back in the day when they first came out with this version of the BlackBerry that they had. It was doing Palm and all this stuff, and smartphones were starting to come out. This is probably 8 years ago. They came out with this square version of the BlackBerry that had its scroll little wheel was on the side of the phone. And it was like just a round little wheel built into the side of the phone, kind of like a volume control wheel.
Right.
And that's how you scrolled up and down and then you move the mouse around and stuff. World's biggest piece of crap phone ever invented. I had one. Okay, this phone made me want to take a hammer to it. Okay, I don't abuse electronics. This phone, I'd be like, who cares? And I'd throw it across the room because I just had no use for it. And T-Mobile wouldn't do me a trade-in, nothing. They kept jerking my chain. Suddenly, a newer, better version of it came out. And they said, hey, you have this old piece of crap one that people seem to not like? We have a new one. Look, it's got way better features. And you know what? We'll give you a break. You give us the old one, we'll give you $50 off. Really? Really? Like a bunch of barking trained seals. A lot of people went, and they they went and they ran and they got the phone. But it's a good marketing ploy. You build a piece of crap. You have the golden goose already behind the scenes. You know, the thing does everything. Makes you pancakes, makes your breakfast for you, you know, whatever you want. And then you build a piece of crap. You release the piece of crap, put some hype around it, right? But you release it, get people so fed up and so agitated that they're just about ready to leave. And when they're just about ready to leave, or they're so fed up with the phone, they want something new, bam, you drop the golden goose.
Well, that's what Apple has done successfully, very successfully with the iPhone. Because when the iPhone came out, obviously it was 2G, and then all of a sudden they came out with their 3G when 3G really went crazy and, you know, was spread all over the country. Or it was actually still relatively new. So usually only major markets had it. And then they came out with the iPhone 3G, and then everybody's like, well, we want this. Are they going to upgrade completely? And then they came out with the 3GS, you know, and then they came out with the iPhone 4, still didn't have 4G. Then iPhone 4S with the promise of 4G that never happened. And then all of a sudden the iPhone 5 came out, you know, with 4G technology. So Apple's been, you know, guilty of doing it just as well as anybody else, any other phone maker out there. And I bought into it up until iPhone 4, and then I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. I mean, the small screens and the operating system is simplistic. It's very easy to use. I like to call it a nice introductory smartphone because it is. It does a lot of things, but it's very simplistic. It's everything's pretty easy to deal with. You don't have to worry about a ton of different settings and things like that. It just does what it does, and it does it well. You know, I'll give them credit. It does it well. But unfortunately, I've moved on to Android with the gigantic screens.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that, I mean, I'm sure there are probably slave labor factories making Android stuff somewhere, but
they are.
At least I don't know about the suicide nets on their buildings yet. You know.
Yeah, the guy that lost, if he lost the Galaxy S4, you know, I don't think he's jumping out of a tower anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Supposedly.
Yeah. See, if you go research what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, Apple suicide nets, just Google Apple suicide nets in China. The factories, I don't even know if you can call it a factory. It's like the size of a city, some of these things. But these places, these manufacturing facilities in China that manufacture the iPads, iPhones, all of Apple's crap, their computers, they have to have suicide nets on the buildings because the workers are so depressed and just distraught that they literally jump to their deaths. And it's not one or two a year. It's so many that they actually had to install nets below the windows.
That's so funny. It's not funny, but it's hilarious to see, to even know that a company has to install suicide nets around their building.
Right.
It's just retarded.
And then you have the brainless morons that line up for the new iPhone. You know, they pitch tents and stuff outside. And if you went and talked to them and you asked them about human rights, I guarantee you they wouldn't be like, well, people should kill themselves. Most of those people would, you know, I'm sure there's some a-holes in the line, but I'm sure most of those people are good-natured, as most people are. You know, I wouldn't want kids to die or young people to throw themselves out of a window or slave labor or anything like that. Yet when you support, you know, a company like that, it's different if you don't know about it and it's hidden. And you're lied about it, but when it's out in the open and you know about it and you still openly support them, I can't. I stopped buying Apple products and all that stuff. That's all I can do. I can't physically run and save the people jumping out of windows, but I can at least stop supporting that company with my finances if I choose to. So I haven't purchased Apple products in a while. And I won't be purchasing any new Apple products in the future. But of course, I'm sure that there's slave labor somewhere that makes. I mean, come on, they use kids for a reason. Why do they use kids, Popeye? Because they have little fingers. That's why they use kids. And that's not a joke. I know it sounds funny to say it, but it's the truth. They use kids because their hands are little. And they can get into places that big adult fingers can't. Disgusting. But slave labor is a reality. We're slaves here in the United States, too, to a certain degree. Break coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. We get back. We got a ton of other topics. Make sure you don't put the site on your iPhone on backwards. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Johnny, I have a ton of other stories I want to go over with you. The past 2 weeks have been slammed, so we're going to have to move on from some of the hilarity and Windows bashing. Although it is true, ladies and gentlemen, all what is it called? When you planned obsolescence, that's it, is a real thing. Planned obsolescence does exist. I know people say no, it does. Okay. It does. I've talked about it 100 times. They do it with phones. They do it with computers. They do it with cars. They have the technology to make stuff that we could, have a car that runs and lasts for 50 years. They just don't want that. Let me ask you this. How do the people in Cuba drive cars around? Because the cars that they have are like 50 and 60 years old. Now, if you can't get parts for that car, how are those cars still running? Well, if they need a part, they actually machine their own parts for those cars. See, back in the day, you could do things like that with these cars and still make them run because they were mechanical. Now you can't do that anymore. Everything's computer operated, and trust me, planned obsolescence is real. So it doesn't matter if it's computers, phones, cars, anything. It's to make you continuously spend your money. It's about creating the consumer culture. I know my grandparents didn't partake in this consumer culture the way, like, their generation, when they were my age, they didn't deal with the same things that we deal with. I mean, the kids today don't deal with the same things I did when I was a teenager. I mean, they marketed stuff at us, but now look at this stuff. The consumer culture is like 10 times or 100 times the size it was when I was a kid. And when I was a kid, it was 100 times what it was when my father was a kid. It's just massively growing. We used to actually have stuff that lasted, Johnny, remember?
Oh, yeah. I remember my grandmother had this gigantic freezer. Well, really, all the appliances back then. She had this gigantic freezer. Literally, I think I could lay down in it now as an adult. And this thing was huge. And I know she had this thing easily for 10 years and never had a problem. It never broke down.
Dude, when I was a kid, when we'd go rummaging through the junkyards and stuff, I remember them yelling at us and saying to us, make sure when you're going through the junkyards you don't get into the old freezers. And these were the old freezers from like World War II era that some of them had just been dumped off within a year or two. That wasn't like they were in the dump for 50 or 60 years. That stuff gets scrapped and sent out of there, so it doesn't last for too long a period of time. And some of these freezers were just dying then when I was a kid. And I was born in the 70s, so 30 years after World War II was still kind of fresh when I was a kid. You know what I mean? It wasn't that long ago. 30 years ago wasn't that long of a period of time. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't know. When I look at things now, man, I can see how far gone society has become, in relation to, on many different levels, but at least in relation to their need to continuously purchase useless crap that they don't need. I mean, how many people do you know that won't save anything? Like if this shirt's like 6 months old, it's out of style, and they go to throw it out. You're like, why are you throwing that out? Why would you even throw that out? Why would you not give that to somebody? Right? Why would you not give that to the homeless? No, I don't like to give my clothes away,
Well, what they're doing is they're going to these consignment shops. There's a host of new, consignment shops. There's a couple that are, really big that have, they have the same ones all over the country. And that's what a lot of people are doing. They'll go in and they'll bring their clothes or whatever. And they'll, mark price tags on it. And it's kind of you don't get any money until it sells type thing. So it's consignment, but that's what a lot of people are doing now because people are trying to find any way possible to survive and to get a little extra money. So
dude, I'm going to tell you what, thrift stores. People can laugh all they want. I go to thrift stores.
Oh, I do too.
I've gotten some great stuff at thrift stores. You got to remember, a lot of people, they go to their grandfather will die or their father will die or somebody in the family will die and they'll have all these clothes and they don't know what to do with it. So they just bring it to the thrift store and drop it off. A lot of times you find stuff that's never been worn, brand new, still got tags on it.
I have a down jacket and it's, what down jackets are. This thing is I can't remember the name brand. It is a name brand jacket. And this thing, literally, I wore this thing out in like, you cannot wear it outside unless it's at least 10 below. Because if it's 0 or above, you're going to sweat your ass off. And this thing looked brand new, and I got it for $6. It was probably a $130 jacket, and I got it for $6.
I'm telling you, dude, and you can get, there's more than just clothes there. There's a lot of these thrift stores, they have electronics. You never know what little gems you may find. And the good stuff goes fast, but you never know what little gems you may find. Don't think it's above yourself to go to a thrift store and purchase clothing. I grew up, my mother used to make some of my clothes. She would go to the store, buy the material, and make my clothes. She used to make her own clothes, dude. I grew up very differently. And to me, the consumer culture, I'm like the anti-consumerist, I guess. Because, I buy stuff if I need it. Don't get me wrong. I've been talking to you. I'm trying to purchase a possible tablet or something, and I've been talking to you about it because you know a lot about that stuff, So I'm not afraid to buy something, but only if I need it. I'm not going to go out and uselessly buy stuff that I don't need. I have shirts that are 8, 9, 10, 15 years old. I don't have to go out and buy new T-shirts. I have a pretty decent-sized wardrobe. My clothes are just fine. If something wears out, then I replace it. But why would you go out and spend money? I have friends, dude, that are in debt for like 20 grand on credit cards, specifically because they just went out and bought clothes every 6 months, and they needed the newest trendy clothes. Yep. And I would say to them, I don't get you. Why do you do that? Well, because I want to look good. Dude, I look fine in my clothes. Yeah, but your shirt's 10 years old. So does it have holes in it? Is it falling off my body? No, it looks good. It's in good condition. So then what's the big deal? Why would you waste a perfectly good shirt and throw it away? And if you're going to throw clothes away, if you're going to get rid of them, why throw them away? Why not give them to a homeless person?
Because they believe the propaganda. They believe all this crap. When somebody comes out and wearing a certain clothing line, or somebody there's a commercial on, and you've got Michael Jordan or somebody else out there saying, "Hey, buy this," and of course you listen like good little slaves that you are. You run right out and buy it, no matter what it costs you. No matter what the cost, and no matter how much deeper in debt it might put you, you've got to have those new clothes and those new shoes, those $200 shoes, tennis shoes. You got to have all that stuff. We're good little slaves.
It's programming. That's what advertising is. It's mind control, literally. I've said this before on other broadcasts. That's why when you go to a food store or a Target or a Walmart or any of these stores, you ever notice when you walk into a Target or a Walmart or whatever, if you could walk into any Target anywhere, they're all pretty much laid out the same. Almost exactly. Some of them might be bigger than others, but they all kind of have the same layout pretty much. Same thing with Walmarts. Everybody goes, "Oh, well, Popeye, that's like everything's universal. Makes it easier for the customer." No, it makes it easier to program the customer. You see certain foods like milk and eggs and the cheese and your butter, your dairy products and stuff. Where's the freezer section in the store? Where's the freezer section usually located? In the far back of the store. Now, why is that? Because most people go to the store, I just got to get some milk and eggs. And then they come back with $200 worth of crap they didn't need. Well, that's because they put the milk and eggs on the far side of the store and the entrance on the other far side of the store, and in between they put all this other useless garbage, and they pump you out with they pump out the mind control programming with signs and everything else, advertising stuff, and as you're walking, you don't even realize it, but your mind is under this subliminal assault from all ends. Buy, 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 buy.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, those stores are laid out on purpose like that.
Well, Super Walmart, the idea for Super Walmart was brilliant, when it comes to making money, because they definitely figured out a way. And you'll always notice all of the, stuff least likely to sell, just on a whim, will be all up front. And you have to walk by all this crap to get to what you really, you're really there for. And those freezer items and the milk, the easily perishable type stuff, that's always going to be in the very back, because that's what you're usually going in for anyway.
Yep, they call those things impulse items. That's why they put them at the registers, like lighters, lipstick, magazines, all that crap. Those are impulse buys. You'd be surprised, ladies and gentlemen, how much money they fleece from people with that crap. We're going to break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I had to throw the campy voice in there. I'm sorry. I can do it once in a while, too, but not as good as Johnny. Johnny does that.
Just sing your intros now. Every time you come back in, just sing your intros. We are back.
See, actually, you do sound better than me.
I'm going to,
Are you going to hurl?
I might. I got to find my garbage bag.
Oh, well, you better get it, because I got a story that's going to make you.
Goody.
This one should irritate anybody that's got children or a wife. USF obstetrician threatens to call police if patient doesn't report for a C-section. What? I will call the cops and make you come have a C-section.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Please, you've got to get a little deeper into this, because that cannot be exactly what it sounds like. But go ahead.
I believe it is. Here, check this out.
Okay.
Lisa Epstein thought she had an advocate for her high-risk pregnancy in Dr. Jerry Yankowitz, chairman of the University of South Florida's Department of Obstetrics. I can never pronounce this word. Obstetrics and gynecology. It's the, you know what I'm talking about. It's the
obstetrician.
That's it. Thank you. I can never get for some reason that word does not come out of my mouth.
Where are you getting the X?
That's the way they've got it typed out in the article. It's like whatever you call an obstetrician, but whatever you call the title of that.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Anyway, he's an obstetrician. So, and he's obviously a gynecologist.
He's an OBGYN.
That would be it.
He's an obgyn.
Yeah, an obgyn. Yes, that would be it. Well, she opened her email to find out that there was a well-known. This guy's well-known, I guess, and he was threatening to send the police to her house unless she immediately reported to Tampa General Hospital to have a cesarean section. I guess he felt that it was high risk or whatever, and I guess she didn't want to go in. And it's really up to the, I guess if the baby's going to die and they have to go in, that's one thing. But I don't think it was to that point yet. But I think he felt it was. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes the doctors, their opinion and maybe the patient, whatever, the mother, might differ. And apparently that's what happened. And basically, here's a quote from it. I am deeply concerned that you are contributing to a very high probability that your fetus will die or your child will incur brain damage if born alive. At this time, you must come in for delivery. I would hate to move to the most extreme option, which is having law enforcement pick you up at your home and bring you in. But you are leaving the providers of USF/TGH no choice. What? What are you going to SWAT team her? How is that helpful to the child?
And if that doesn't work, we'll find you near stairs and kick you down them.
All right, we'll tase you, and then we'll drive you into the hospital. If the child's still alive after the beating and the tasing you received from the police, well, then maybe it'll come out healthy. I mean, what?
Well, you knew it was coming. Honestly, it's been, that writing's been on the wall for a long time. As soon as they figured out they can pull these little tests and they can tell if your baby's going to have this or that, or if your baby's going to be this color, or their eyes are going to be this color, or whatever the case may be. As soon as they came out with that technology, it was, well, here we go. We're starting down that road, and then sure enough, here's just here's a good example of it. I'm sure there's probably more you probably don't even hear about. They gotta make sure all the children born now have zero problems, no issues whatsoever. So.
It says Tampa police couldn't recall a case in which they were sent to bring a pregnant woman to the hospital for an unwanted cesarean section. Spokesman Laura McElroy said the only possible legal grounds would be if the doctor established the fetus life was in immediate danger, which would be difficult under patient privacy regulations. So, there you go. We're going to send the cops to your house. This nation has become a bunch of pussies. For real. We're a bunch of pussies. If we can't get our way, I'm going to call the cops. That's what happens. People go to Burger King. They get in a fight with the friggin' manager because they don't get their burger their way. I'm not kidding. They call the cops. People call 911 all the time on the drive-through people. It's like a regular thing that happens now. Look it up. Google it. Look how many different times it happens a year. Or people call the cops because, go look up dumb reasons people dial 911. People go, why are they so dumb? Why would you dial 911 for stupid reasons like this? Because they're programmed to.
They don't know what else to do.
Yeah, there's a problem, you call the cops. Oh, my garden hose has a kink in it. Call the cops. My lawn's not mowed. Call the cops.
Yeah, problem solving has gone. It's literally gone from the American way.
Who is this doctor? First of all, why are you threatening your patient? You don't come in here. And, Lord knows why she didn't want to go in for the cesarean section. She was trying to do something else. She's a stay-at-home homeschooling mother, and blah, 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 blah. Of course, they have to throw that in there. She was wishing to attempt something called a vaginal birth after cesarean. I have no idea what it is. It led her to this guy, and, then USF, and I guess they were taking care of her, and I'm sure that they were worried about the baby's health, but again, threatening the mother we're going to send the police to your house if we have to. You don't have the authority, Doc. You don't have the authority. They just said only if the fetus's life was in imminent danger, and you really, if you went to the police and said, oh, I know that fetus's life is in danger, well, how do you know? When was the last time you saw it? Oh, I saw her a month and a half, 2 months ago. And you're waiting till now to, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many gray areas that you could step into on that. Get out of here, dude. You don't have the right to do that. I'm so tired of this, dude. Every little thing, I'm going to call the cops if you don't know. Shut up. Shut up. First of all, you suck as a doctor. Maybe that's the problem, okay? If you have to threaten your patients to come in and see you, you suck.
Where are these the Democratic, almost a Democratic, where are these Hippocratic oaths? Are they forgotten as soon as they say them, or what's the deal? Because even no matter what phase of being a doctor that you're in, or whatever field you decide to go into, you still have to abide by that. And where is that? It's gone. It's absolutely gone now. It doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't.
Even with a doctor of obstetrics. Ha-ha, I said it.
Obstetrics.
Yes, that's what it's called. That's the word I could not get out of my mouth before.
OBGYN. It's just easier.
Yeah, you're right, it is. This guy should get fired.
He should, yeah.
Maybe I'm being harsh, but when you send a threatening letter threatening to send the cops to somebody's house if you don't bring the baby in, there's this overreaching, like, I'm God and I know better. If the child was going to die or the life was in imminent danger, I'm sure the mother would probably be very motivated to get in and take care of the baby. But she even says, if you read the article, it's posted up at federaljack.com, and you read the whole article, she says that she was first thing she was worried about when she first read the letter was, her first reaction was fear, like, oh my God, are the cops going to come kick my door in and drag me out, to the hospital to have a cesarean section that I don't want? Think about that for a second. Can you imagine that if the doctors had the power to just call the cops and be like, yeah, I want my patient to, I feel that my patient needs this really expensive surgery. My patient doesn't feel that they need this super expensive surgery, but I do because I need to buy my Porsche. I need to make my car payment this month. So what I need you to do is I need you to go over and pick them up from their house and bring them into my clinic and forcefully hold them down while I operate on them. That's illegal. The cops would be kidnapping. The doctor, that's like assault, and I don't even know how many different legal charges you could go after somebody for that. Think about the insanity of that. Do we live in like a horror movie from the 80s?
How long before they start calling up, your kid's going to have brown eyes. We've got to take that kid out immediately. Seriously. When's it going to end? You know, what else are they going to come up with? Your kid's going to have ADHD possibly.
There was a Twilight Zone episode like that where the kids, they got to a certain age, and if the kid was too smart, the state took him and euthanized him.
Yeah. I mean, when's it going to happen? When's that going to start? And people don't see this. They don't care. They just don't. They'd rather read about their favorite celebrity and what they did at the beach. It's just irritating, man.
I know. I get pissed off, too. Frustrating. But it's for the kids, Johnny.
Who's on American Idol? Who's the finalist?
It's for their safety, don't you understand?
Ugh.
Yeah, I know. That excuse. If it was really for the safety, ladies and gentlemen, let's just get something straight. If it was really for the safety of the kids, then you wouldn't have to worry about the very politicians that run around saying they love the safety of the children being the ones that are raping and killing children. Oh.
Yeah, Catholic Church would be gone.
Yeah, right. Capitol Hill would be burned to the ground. Washington would have been burned to the ground a long time ago. Okay? Google the Franklin cover-up or search engine it. I don't want to give them any advertising. Use whatever search engine you'd like and look up the Franklin cover-up.
This is Sparta!
You got a few minutes during the break if you don't know what it is. But do a little research for the children. Right, I know how we can protect the children. How about we kill all the people that are going out and raping them? How about that? How about we round all those sick bastards up and start hanging them from the steps of Capitol Hill? And I'm talking about the politicians that do it. That's a start on saving the kids. We'll be back with hour number 2. Don't go anywhere.
Because it's for the kids.
Yuck. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is March 24th, 2013, and today is Sunday. And that means it is episode 7 of Cutting Through the BS with my good friend and brother from another mother, Johnny English. Johnny, welcome back for hour number 2, homie.
Thanks. Glad to be here, sir.
There's
a lot of inside stuff, a lot of backdoor things that Popeye and I discuss, and we have our own inside jokes that most people will never have a clue. And sometimes you'll hear us say things, and then one of us laughs or whatever. Just don't worry about it. We'll eventually get around to the good stuff.
Exactly. Johnny and I have this way. It's almost like I can just say something or half a sentence, and he knows exactly where I'm going with it, and I don't even have to go any further. And then he just starts laughing hysterically, and then he knows where I was going to go, and that's it. So if that happens, just let it go. Eventually, you'll catch on. It just happens when the two of us get together. It is what it is, but it makes for good radio too. So during the break, you and I were chatting about an experience I had the other day, and I wanted to share this with the listeners because I want to prove a point when people say, oh, they really don't monitor your web traffic. Okay. I'm going to give you 2 instances here. First one, I was talking to a representative at Comcast, I don't know, about a month ago, and him and I were having a conversation, and I decided I wanted to pick his brain a little bit, so I kept the conversation flowing and going for about a half hour, and I just kind of picked his brain along the way. And he said to me in no uncertain terms that Comcast, he admitted, because I kind of already knew this, but I got him to admit it, that they, at Comcast, and most of these big companies can do this, if not all of them, they can watch exactly what websites you go to, what you download. That's how they catch people downloading stuff. What they do is, I said, well, what do you go after people that go to YouTube and download YouTube videos and stuff? And he's like, no, it's not like that. He's like, and a lot of times they can't tell. Sometimes they can tell if you're doing that, depending on the company or who's doing it. But that's not really what they're looking at. We're looking at if you go to torrent networks and you're ripping a lot of files, from there. But they can see what you're doing. Right? Exactly. Whoops. So they can see what you're doing. And I was like, okay. So I keep that in the back of my mind, whatever. And there was more, but that's a quick, little nutshell. Showcase of that. That's one example. Well, here's the second one. Yesterday, I happened to be on my phone carrier's website, and I've been trying to decide if I'm going to upgrade my smartphone or if I'm going to use it as a piece of skeet. And,
excuse me.
Yeah, well, I'm going to use it as a piece of skeet. It's a piece of... I have the original Evo. It's about as useful as... When it comes to smartphones now, the way things become outdated, it's, it's useless. It's like the difference between a car and, walking on leather sandals. It can't... It really... Dude, it doesn't... You know what I'm talking about. It doesn't operate. It doesn't function half of what it's supposed to. It's a piece of crap. So I'm spending all this money on my phone bill. I'm like, okay, how can I get something that can help me with the website, with the radio show, something to be more useful, better smartphone, maybe a little tablet or something. So I've been talking to Johnny off air. So I go to my phone provider's website yesterday, and I'm perusing the phones. And while I was there, I said, I'm going to pay my phone bill while I'm here. So I logged in. Now, before I logged in, I was on the website for like 15 minutes, shopping on throughout the different phones, just going back and forth web pages. As soon as I logged in, and I paid my bill, took care of that really quick, and then I went back to shopping. I was in the shopping section about a minute and a half, and all of a sudden, bloop, a little IM pops up. Would you like some help? Blah, 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 blah. And I said to my wife, do you see this? She said, what? I said, I was on this page for like 15, 20 minutes, not logged into the site, into my account, and nothing. As soon as I logged in and went back into the shop section, boop, little message pops up. Would you like to buy this? Can I help you buy something? Can I help you today? Do you need any help? The ever so helpful salesperson. Can't stand that. Hate that. Like, get away from me. I don't like car salesmen. I tell car salesmen right off the bat, I'm the biggest dick when I go to a car dealership.
I drive through the parking lot as fast as possible.
I walk in and they'll be, can I help you? And I'm like, nope, I already know what I want. Well, maybe I can interest you in, nope, I don't like car sales. I tell them, I don't like salesmen. If I need you, I'll come get you. And they just look at me. Some people don't like to go into places with me like that. I treat car salesmen like that purposely. You're trying to be like a recruiter. Get away from me. And that's how the phone salesman was, dude. Like,
the Verizon. That's why I won't go into the Verizon store here locally anymore, because the guy pissed me off last time I was in there. No, you don't know what you're talking about. I know more about this phone than you do, and so I know exactly what you're saying.
Well, that's what this guy was like last night, except now it's Big Brotherish, because now I didn't ask him. It's not like I said, "Hey, can I engage in an instant messaging conversation with somebody on the website?" I was just logged into my account, paid my bill, happened to be, let me go back and look at the shop. Bing, go over to shop, and all of a sudden, can I help you? So I was like, of course, I decided to play with the guy's head for about 20 minutes, which I did, and then I'd let him go, and I engaged him in a little conversation. But then you have to hit a button, and it opens up the chat window in a separate, like, pop-up chat window. But this little pop-up that originally pops up, it's from the Sprint website. And I didn't ask the guy, are you monitoring me? But I figured out, not only obviously he must have seen that a member is logged in somehow and went into the store, right? But then here was the second thing, which is what I told you off air. I decided, now this is how I do things. I'll compare stuff, right? And I won't click on the thing and go, back and forth in the same tab. So I opened up, you just right click and open up in new tab, right? Well, if you're logged into a site or whatever, it'll open up that tab as you're logged in. So I have two tabs open, and I'm looking at two different phones. And I said, give me a few minutes. I said, I'm just trying to figure some stuff out. So he goes, yeah, take your time, sir. And then he types back. That's when I open up the second tab, and he goes, sir, may I ask which page you're on the website? Now, how the hell would he know? I didn't say anything to him. This is a chat. We're not having a verbal conversation. He's not sitting next to me. How would he know that I have two separate tabs open on the same website? Unless he's monitoring it in the back end. So, and people go, oh, well, of course they monitor it, Popeye. But you don't really think that, do you? That's not advertised to you, is it? It's not advertised that if you log into their website, they're actually going to have someone live monitoring you and your activity, and then they go and they start sales pitch crap with you. So I tested it. I did it again. Logged out. Waited a little while. Logged back in. Hit the store. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was. It was early this morning. After I got all, maybe it was even later. It was like 6. After I got finished talking to you this morning, I go back on, check it again. Boom, chat window pops up again, and I'm like, okay, now you know they're now without a doubt they're monitoring it. So it just goes to show you, when people go online and they go to these big corporation websites and stuff like that, or if they have like Comcast or whatever, they think that they're not being monitored. Wrong. All your activity is being monitored.
Anytime you log into any site, your IP address is at minimal, it's being recorded. At the very minimum, you're being recorded, and they know exactly who comes to their website. They know exactly how long you were there. They know exactly what you were looking at. I mean, how do you think these Google ads just pop up out of nowhere? I'm on looking at mixers on Z Sounds, and anytime I go into a site now that has a Google ad or whatever, guess what I'm looking at? I'm looking at the exact same models that I perused while I was on their website. So you know, people are clueless. They really think they're surfing safely. They really think that Norton antivirus or Bitdefender is saving them from the mighty websites that are tracking them. No, they're not.
Not a chance in hell. Well put, Johnny. Yeah, not a chance in hell, ladies and gentlemen. You're being monitored. Everything we do. I just figured I'd throw that out there so everybody was aware of that, because I know a lot of people aren't aware of it. So, all right, we're going to break. We're back in a few minutes. Do not go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Today's live edition of DTRH. You know it's Sunday, so it is episode number 7, Cutting Through the BS with Johnny English. Johnny, I got a big pile of crap to cut through right now.
Okay, well.
It starts with a P and ends with an N. It's called the Pentagon.
Oh, I was thinking of something else.
The Pentagon wants an extra $49 million for a Gitmo makeover. I thought they were closing Gitmo.
Well, as I told you in the break, they are. They're closing the old crappy building, and they're building a brand new one.
You see, it's in the technicalities.
Yeah, you got to read deep into it, and then, you know, once you read a little deeper into the story of them closing Gitmo, you'll see down in the really small, tiny print, it says, the old building.
Yeah, it says, we're closing Gitmo, and then the fine print says, well, we're closing the old building to make a new one. So the old Gitmo, I guess, or the old...
So technically they didn't lie.
Oh, God.
You know, technically they're following through with what they said. They're closing it and then reopening it the next day.
Wasn't his first executive order this big, remember the big to-do photo event, you know, video showcase of him sitting there signing, he's going to close Guantanamo Bay. Now, let's fast forward 4 years. And now they're looking to get money to redo it and update it. Yeah. How's that executive order working out to close Guantanamo? Oh, that's right. That's right. It didn't say he was going to close. He said, the executive order said he would think about closing it. Well, I guess he thought about it.
He did. He thought very long and hard, probably at least 5 minutes, and, decided no. We need to build a new building. We need to spend more money we don't have. All this money we're sending to Israel and all this money we're sending to all these other countries and spending money left and right and just handing people checks. That's what they're doing. They're just handing people money.
Why do we give financial bailouts to the Chinese?
Why are we giving it to Israel?
Oh, well, that's already a given. We shouldn't be. First of all, we shouldn't be giving financial anything to anyone. All financial aid should be cut off. All of it.
You know what that's like, Popeye? That's like we pretty much live week to week. That would be like me bailing you out. That would be like me borrowing money and bailing you out with it.
Right. You go to the bank and borrow $100,000, and you give me $50,000 of it.
Right.
but I don't pay you back.
Exactly.
And you have to pay all the interest and everything else on the loan.
That's what it is. And it's money that doesn't even get printed, really. You know, the money never gets printed. It's just all electronic. It's retarded. It's the most asinine thing I've ever...
It's a scam, dude.
It is.
It's a total scam.
I mean, how can people not see that? That we are shelling out money to these countries. We are bailing, quote-unquote, bailing them out or giving them millions of dollars. And we are... how many trillions in debt are we right now? That means we're upside down. If you know, some of you that maybe don't understand the terminology, we're upside down in the loan. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know how bad it is? This is how bad it is. China buys our debt, and then we turn around and we give them financial bailouts.
That gives me a headache.
Yeah.
My eyes want to roll back in my head.
Anybody that understands basic math realizes that can't continue. Okay? It just doesn't work. Hello? How asinine is that? We get them to buy our debt, and then we turn around with the money that we've gotten from them from buying our debt, and we turn around and we give it back to them. And then they purchase more debt with it. Hello, we're giving them the country. First of all, that's one, and two, just hello, people. Hello.
But if you remember right, Popeye, a few years ago, this actually happened with the Japanese, and the Japanese were over here buying everything. I mean, they're buying bridges, they're buying landmarks, they're buying all this stuff, and then we ended up buying it back cheaper than what we sold it to them for. So, you know, they honestly, I think I see their plan. I think I see the plan a little bit here. We do that. We sell them all this stuff, okay? And we have to give them this stuff to pay on interest on loans on money that never got printed, all right? And then our economy tanks. And then all of a sudden, all these landmarks, all these things that we sold them aren't worth dick. And then we buy it back cheaper. See, I think I see the thing here. I think I see this. However, I don't know where it goes. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
It's just another scheme. And then that's going to end one day, and then on to the next one. And then on to the next one. And then on to the next one.
This is what happened with the mortgage scam. I mean, it really is. You had a house that was worth $80,000. Some jerk-off comes and tells you it's worth $110,000. So like an idiot, because you're looking at buying something new and flashy, like a car, or maybe you want to add on to the house, maybe a hot tub or a pool, and you go, yeah, hell yeah, I'll take that loan for $110,000. And in reality, your house is, again, only worth $80,000. And that's how the mortgage bubble exploded. I mean, literally, it exploded. It was like a nuclear blast. You know, and that's where we're headed with this. You know, but I don't understand it. How do people not see it? I just don't get it.
Because economics is too confusing for people, to be honest with you. And it's not that economics is confusing. It's made to look confusing so that they don't understand. I mean, honestly, I suck at math, okay? Like basic math I'm good at, you know, like you give me trigonometry and stuff like that, I'm out. You know, like, sorry, like I'm sure if I sat down and actually applied myself, I could probably do it. I'm very smart. That's not the point. I don't like math. It bores the hell out of me, okay? Just don't like it. It's like the one subject I hate. Never understood economics. Never. I always thought it was convoluted mess. You must be a brainiac wizard. You know, my mother was an accountant. She liked numbers. She used to tell me all the time, it's not as hard as you think it is. You know, people make it out to be harder than it really is. I never understood what she meant until I started looking how they actually make money and how this whole thing works. Then I understood what she meant. It actually isn't as convoluted as they make it out to be. It's just all the crap that they put out there, the misinformation or the words and the terminology. Most people hear 3 or 4 things that they don't understand, and they're like, I'm out. And that's it.
Well,
they don't want to hear about it.
It's like the tax code. The tax code is so difficult. It could be so much easier, you know, or not even have it at all and just, you know, charge a national sales tax. But that's beside the point. That's been tried, obviously, and shot right dead, right in its tracks. But, you know, the tax code is so crazy to even try to understand it. And how do they give out money to people? How do they give people more money back than they paid in? I mean, think about that for a second. How do they do that? That doesn't even make sense to me. How does GE not pay any taxes at all?
Because they're GE.
I mean, really? Seriously. I don't know.
I know. It's disgusting. But then, the same corporations like GE and /NBC, and I know that I think GE might have even sold NBC a couple of years ago, but we'll, for all intents and purposes, we'll say they're still, they're all connected anyway. And NBC is nothing more than the news media wing for the military-industrial complex. But they'll come on and tell you how bad of a person you are, and how Americans are scumbags and need to pay more taxes and pay more of their fair share, while they don't pay any taxes at all.
Actually, I have proof of that. Media talking about people. We'll get into that after the break real quick, if you don't mind.
No. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. 3 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And as promised, I know Johnny's got an article referencing what we were discussing in the last segment, which was I was talking about how I don't want to say the irony, perhaps the hubris would be a better term, of news, really news. That term itself is kind of subjective, but news, faux news outlets like MSNBC, having the balls to, coming out with propaganda and saying how bad people are and blah, blah, blah. And if you don't like the government, you're a crazy, kooky conspiracy theorist, terrorist, and people should love government and pay more taxes and pay their fair share and blah, 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 blah. They love that. And raise taxes, raise taxes. That's one of their mantras over there at MSNBC, right? How come they don't have to pay taxes? But they want you, me, and everybody else to pay taxes, Johnny. What the hell's that about? Seriously, what is that about? Like, you do as I say, not as I do. That's what that is.
Nope.
Arrogant
Absolutely
retards, dude.
Yeah, that is what it is. It's do as I say, not as I do. We don't have to follow our own rules. That's pretty much the way it's laid out. We have these rules, and we're not going to follow them, but you have to follow them.
They make themselves exempt from their own rules.
Yeah.
So they make a rule, right? They make this blanket rule. Everybody falls under this blanket rule except for them and their family and their friends. Does anybody else see the problem with this?
Why do you think D.C.'s not a state?
Yeah, and what amazes me is the people in that city don't even have an issue with that.
Yeah.
And if they do, where is their anger? Must be a ton of fluoride in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a huge truck somewhere with a giant skull and crossbones on it, just pumping fluoride in like crazy.
Yeah, they probably back in the 53-foot trailers, you know what I'm saying?
They probably spray the houses down with it.
My God, dude, they must. Because, doesn't the license plate even say taxation without representation? If that's the case, wasn't there some mantra from the 1700s, something about no taxation without representation? I don't know. I could be wrong. I remember something in history about a revolution, a couple pieces of parchment, made out of hemp, with some documents of some sort written on them, with some important writing. I remember this. I don't remember what they're called because, see, in school I was never taught how to write cursive. I'm speaking facetiously, ladies and gentlemen, as if I was a youth of today in the future 35 years from now, okay? What's the Constitution? I don't understand cursive, so I don't know what that says. But the government has been so kind that they translated it into printed English. The first rule, notice it's just the first rule, the first rule of the laws of the United States, because that's what they say this document is called, the laws and regulations of the United States. The first rule is you must obey the government as if it were God. Unquestioningly. That's what they say it says over there in cursive. Now, of course, I'm being facetious, but I'm sure you all get my point. Somewhere at some point, somebody has to pull their head out of their butt and pay attention to what's going on. Again, the hubris of people, it's not just MSNBC or whatever they call themselves nowadays, NBC News, whatever plays news, whatever their little moniker is. And it's not just them. It's Fox, CNN, all of these sellout scumbags. When was the last time you saw a news agency or somebody on a news network come on and say, you know what, these taxes are BS, aside from Judge Andrew Napolitano, okay? And look what happened to him. He had his own show on Fox Business Network. He started ruffling feathers, and there went his show on Fox Business Network. And I'm not saying Fox News is the end-all, be-all of truth. They're just as bad as CNN or MSNBC. But when you get someone that does speak truth on one of these networks, their show is turned off rather fast. So you don't see any dissenting opinion. He was the only one that ever said, the government, small government, take your taxes and jam them, You don't really see that. All these networks all pretty much are, you should pay more taxes to the government, and obey the government, and love the government. But they never themselves actually do any of that.
Well, yeah, they're bought and paid for. They say exactly what they're told to say,
And a lot of these people do that stuff because they think they're part of some special group, some special class of individual that, just like the congressmen and senators and stuff, where they make laws and then they exempt themselves from it and their friends. Well, these people think that, if I can get into that inner circle, then I'm exempt too. I'm part of that group. I'm part of this elite small group. And that's what fuels them to do things too and take part in this type of crap. They think they're going to get ahead too. And they don't realize that they're not. They're going to be cast aside just like the rest of us are. But history has proven that, Johnny, time and time again. But who am I? I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist because I go read history books.
Yeah, that's right. You just put your tinfoil hat on and do what you're told.
Yeah, I put my tinfoil hat on and sit in the basement and come up with all these things myself. It's my fault. I make all, that's what happens. Conspiracy theorists don't actually do any research. They don't bother to actually, maybe read history books, right? That's maybe why we don't believe what the government tells us, because if you actually read real books, not history books controlled by the Department of Education, or it should be called the Department of Indoctrination, but if you actually go read and research real history, it's amazing how things differ. That's why people start to see through the crap. Again, eventually you have to pull your head out of your butt. You can't. I don't understand how people live continuously with their heads up their asses, and even if they know something's wrong, because I have friends that do that. I have a friend who recently told me, Popeye, I would rather not know about this stuff and live in ignorance than know about this stuff, because this stuff scares me and blah, blah, blah. And then they said to me, well, we all die eventually one day. Because I said, well, so you're just willing to be rounded up, put in a camp, and executed, if that was the case? And this person was like, well, we all die someday, right? And I'm like, I was kind of stressed out. I was a little taken aback. I was like, you would just so if you're on a train, and this is the analogy I gave. I said, if we're on a train right now, I'm looking out the window, and I see that the bridge a mile ahead is out. I can still run up to the conductor and say, hey, stop the train, the bridge ahead is out. Am I crazy because I want him to stop the train so we don't go off the tracks? I'm the crazy one? Or are you perhaps the crazy one, or whatever you want to call it, because you want to deny that the bridge is out? When you can clearly see the bridge is out, and the solution is already at hand. Stop the friggin' train so it doesn't go off the bridge. But nope. You're a crazy, kooky nut. That bridge isn't out.
Well, and that's what a lot of the younger generation, and they've already been fed all this. They're probably up into the early 20s are kind of the first generation to be fed all this, every single day of their lives. And it's usually, that's where you see a lot of dissent. That's where you see a lot of people that won't, they just refuse to see it. They'll actually. I've had another guy say the same exact thing. Why do I care? And I'm like, what? I didn't know how to answer that. I really don't. It's like, seriously, are you going to care when they come beating your door down? Are you going to care then? Are they going to care when your neighbors are being dragged out of their house? What is it going to take for you to care? And that's really the issue. What's it going to take for you people to really care and really do something?
Yeah, it's like when, if you want to look at it on maybe a more personal note, picture the country as your body, right? And there's a medical issue with inside your body. At what point do you admit that there might be something medically wrong with you and you should perhaps maybe seek some sort of medical attention, whether it be homeopathic or allopathic, however you handle it? At what point do you admit that there is an issue and you need to address the health issue in your body? Well, it's the same thing with this country, right?
Okay, I'm guilty of that.
Well, same thing. It's the same thing. You have to address it. You have to say, there could be a health issue. Perhaps I should address it. Well, in this case, see? But now that you know that, you can address that. And once you do that on that personal level, then that will extend out to your everyday life, and that extends out to this mess. And that's how it gets cleaned up. It's that simple. There's a solution, ladies and gentlemen. Bam! We're going to break. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment of tonight's broadcast. Make sure you stay tuned in, though, tonight. Especially from 9 to 11, my good buddy Ken Hildebrand always does a fiery broadcast. He's what I like to call the crotchety curmudgeon. I like to hear the pissed off Marine go off about whatever, and he works all week on his broadcast. He keeps an eye on the news, he takes notes here and there, he cuts audio clips and stuff. He does a lot of work for his broadcast, so
I like Ken.
Yeah, Ken's an awesome guy, and he does a good show. And if you haven't checked him out yet, make sure you do. He's on from 9 to 11 here on Orion every Sunday, Eastern Standard Time, the Information Nation. I promise you, Ken will not disappoint. He brings you news, politics. Sometimes he's grumpy. Sometimes he's in a mood where he's just, hysterical joke after hysterical joke or one-liner here or there, and he'll have you, pissing in your pants. So make sure you tune in. Ken does a hell of a broadcast. And next week, Sunday, Johnny's going to be joining me again. We're going to be doing episode 8. We're going to be doing a back-to-back, cutting through the BS.
Yeah, I'm going to have a busy Sunday next week. Realize next Sunday's Easter, right?
Oh, yeah. Ooh,
yeah.
Look at that, too. It'll be the Easter edition of Cutting Through the BS.
Yeah. Ooh. I'll also be doing a special kind of a retro show on KOELive.com. We're going to be chatting with the Reverend Bob Levy. If you like comedians, we're going to have him back on, and me and another guy who actually started with me doing original podcast over 2 years ago. So we're gonna kind of goof off and have some fun.
Dude, that's awesome. So you have a really busy Easter Sunday next week.
I do, on top of the normal everyday other stuff.
Well, it'll be the Easter edition of Cutting Through the BS.
That's right.
It'll be a special Easter edition. Tune in. You don't want to miss it.
Right. We're going to hunt eggs.
Yeah, we're going to go Easter egg hunting for 2 hours and have you join us. We're going to look for...
feeling no eggs will be found because, we're a couple thousand miles apart.
We're going to look for Peter Cottontail.
Yeah, it's a little tough, hiding eggs and saying, all right, Popeye, did you find any of the eggs I hid?
By the time you find them, they'll be rotten.
Yeah.
It'll be easier to find them.
Why does my studio smell?
Yeah, exactly. Well, must be the same reason that New York smells.
Yeah, the New York Post in general.
That New York rotten egg smell. Ugh. Oh, or is that the New York Post rotten egg smell, I should call it. Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, enlighten the listeners why. Well, first, hold on. The Douchebag of the Day award goes to Jim Carrey. He's got a song coming out called Cold Dead Hand. You can go to his Twitter account. There's pictures of it, and actually there's a site called twitchy.com. Just go there and then look in the search thing. Just type in Jim Carrey's Cold Dead Hand, and I'm sure the article will pop up.
Is this the comedian Jim Carrey?
Yeah, he's writing a song based at people who won't give up their guns.
So apparently
to save the kids. So he's bashing gun owners, and he says, here's a song for the heartless MFers unwilling to bend for the safety of our kids. You know what? I'll give up my guns. I'll do this. I'll give up my guns, no problem. You can have my guns for the safety of the children when every scumbag, pedophile, politician, police chief, whoever, doctor, lawyer, Satanist, piece of shit across the world all comes out and raises their hands and says, yes, we're pedophiles, we touch kids, we rape kids, we're child rapist pieces of shit and should be hung, okay, then I'll give you my guns. Until then, kiss my ass. And F you, Jim Carrey, you get the douchebag of the award, or the douchebag of the day award. Dick. What a dick. All right, now, the other half of the award, I guess, goes to the New York Post, correct?
Yeah, the New York Post, they decided that they want to ruin a guy's life over a few Twitter comments. And this New York Fire Department EMS lieutenant, who Timothy DeLujos, I guess, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's about 34 years old. And he, like many others on Twitter or other social media, get on and they say things that they couldn't normally say. Whether or not you agree or disagree with this guy's comments, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I agree with his comments. However, he still has the right to say whatever he wants to say. And there's because of his position as a New York Fire Department EMS guy, he doesn't have he's not afforded the luxury of let's say a comedian that gets paid to talk about these things and be funny and come out with funny lines that are edgy. He can't afford to do that stuff. So he has been caught, I guess you could say, by the New York Post. They've found this guy and they tracked his Twitter account back to him and went to his house and made a huge deal out of this thing. So now this guy's probably going to lose his job. Over 12 years, this guy's been an EMS, worked for the New York Fire Department EMS. He's probably saved lives. I imagine he's probably saved several lives, if you want to get down, and probably all different races. Some people can actually differentiate their job and do their job regardless of what their personal feelings are. Now, here's the other side of that. I got news for you people, okay? I got a little bit of, this might break your heart, it might surprise you, but there are people out here who say things that aren't necessarily politically correct. And I know. It's okay.
I don't know if I can handle that.
But there are people out there, and for this New York Post, for them to come out, and this is the line they led the story with, okay? Here's the line that Susan Edelman and Candace M. Giove, or whatever the hell her name is, this is the line they decided to open this story with. He's a bigot and a blubbering crybaby. Well, they went to his house and they started asking questions and taking pictures. So he's sobbing on the ground. He's on his way to work or whatever. So he's sobbing because he knows his job is done. He knows his career is ended. It's over because they will fire him. It might take a little bit, but they're going to fire him.
Well, see, this is what I don't like about the article. It's an attack on the guy. It's not an actual piece of journalism,
right?
Because they attack the FDNY and say it's this white only culture in the FDNY, and they're trying to push for more diversity and stuff. So you could see there's an agenda, and that they're forming an opinion with this article and this story. So whether or not this guy, what he said, and I don't even know what he said, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't have to agree with it. Okay? Look, my grandmother was, in a concentration camp. She went to camp. She had a tattoo on her forearm. Okay? If the guy said he hated Jews, I wouldn't care. If he said Jews are pigs, I wouldn't care. That's his personal opinion. By the way, it's freedom of speech. See, if I attack him for that right, and I say he shouldn't have the right to say that, well, what happens when someone doesn't when I say I don't like the government, or I don't like Zionism, or I don't like what Israel does? What about that? well, then I'm labeled a self-hating Jew, and then I'm attacked as being anti-Semitic too. But that's not true either, right? So we have to knock this crap off. Now, that whole thing was written with an agenda, and you can see, dude. It's just disgusting.
Oh, it was more than obvious. There was an agenda here, and they needed to make an example out of this guy. And I hope, you know, and I've been on Twitter all day, and I've kind of watched some of the reactions to this. And you've got guys like Jim Norton, who is, of course, if some of you know, who's a part of the Opie and Anthony show. I have heard some of the most vile things come out of that show over the last few years. And for Jim Norton to go on and say this guy deserves this because he's a Twitter troll and because he does this and that and the other. No, really he doesn't, because it's all about free speech here. We're talking about a free speech issue. Again, it doesn't matter if you agree with the guy. It has nothing to do with it. He has the right to say whatever he wants to say. And if Twitter thinks that his comments are a little too much, then they can ban him. They can choose to ban him from the social media.
You can report his comments if you wish.
Right.
But don't be a bunch of this is that pussy culture again.
His life?
It's the pussy culture, Johnny. Oh, you offended me, so you should be fired from your job. No, stop being a wimp. And Jim Norton, of all people, ought to know better.
Exactly.
And I would tell him to his face any day of the week. And if he hears this, Jim, I would tell you to your face to grow up and stop being a sellout. Okay? Ugh.
Makes me...
You wouldn't want your free speech trampled on? Don't try to trample on somebody else's. And don't demand that the guy lose his job because he said something that maybe offended you. Shut up. Shut your mouth. All of you calling for him to be fired should shut up. Okay? It's ridiculous. This is a story. You know what this is? This is the New York Post. This is whoever manipulating that writer to make a story and a case out of something that isn't, so that they can push an agenda. This is what they do. That's not reporting. That's not reporting on anything. That's actually making the problem and then reporting on it and then blowing it up to push an agenda. That's called mind control and manipulation.
It's disgusting.
Absolutely. 110%. And Norton, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. It's as simple as that. Ugh. I have no respect for people that, and I do in free speech, even if you don't agree with it. You know what? If you don't agree with the guy, counter him with an intelligent, logical argument rather than be a pussy and call for him to be banned or lose his job. That means you can't even refute the guy's argument. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. Johnny and I are out of time. We'll catch you again next Sunday. Until then, we love you all. We're out of here.